Now, in the last 2 weeks, it is only Kampala that had 200. Is it per day? The 200 per day. Only Kampala was still high. Now, some of these figures are for Kampala. For Kampala, daily, in June, there were 9,852. June up to 13th. Then, up to between 14th and 20th, there were 8,000. Are these for Kampala only or for all? These are for all. Then 6,033 in June. Then 28th June, 4th July, 5,120. Then 5 to 11 July, 3,640. And now 1,885 in the whole country. The average positivity rate has been coming down, as I said, from 22, from 18 out of every 100 to now 8 out of every 100. And the average admissions are also going down. In June, it was 149 per day. People who are coming to the hospital being admitted. It is now 47. The previous and the current lockdown are part of the preventive health interventions to contain the outbreak in order to protect lives and reduce death. This is in addition to the government strategy of mass vaccination. The government is using a multi-pronged approach to secure adequate vaccines for the target population of 22 million. Those are people who are 18 years and above. Scientists have informed me that children above 12 to 18 years can also be vaccinated using the Pfizer vaccine. I've directed the Ministry of Health to include this age group in their estimates and plan holistically. The following options are being used to access vaccines from the global market. Number one, purchase of vaccines through the COVAX facility. COVAX is like a shared arrangement globally. Purchase of vaccines through the African Union. Purchase of vaccines from manufacturers. Donations through the COVAX facility. An order of 2 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines have been made with the African Union, and a down payment of $3 million has been effected, has been implemented. Delivery will begin in August 2021, which is a few days from now. because today is 29th, 30th. So August is the day after tomorrow. I've been informed that tonight, 30th July 2021, we are receiving donations of 286,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from Norway and 300,000 doses of Sinovac vaccine from China. I would like to thank both the governments of Norway and the People's Republic of China for prioritizing the lives of Ugandans. In addition, in September, we are expecting 647,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine from the USA, 688,000 of the AstraZeneca vaccine from the COVAX facility, and 299,000 doses from the United Kingdom. This gives a total of 1.6 million doses of vaccines, which cater for 17,000 people. Although these are our donations, I have directed the Ministry of Health and Finance to urgently secure vaccines for Ugandans by paying, not just depending on donations. Due to the hoarding of vaccines by some of the nations, Uganda is embarking on its own vaccine manufacturing capacity. To date, 3 candidate vaccines are at different stages of trial. Whereas this may take us some time, this is an effort in the right direction. This is an endeavor that the country would pursue to disentangle itself from dependency. As of today, a total of 1.1 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been administered to the population countrywide. 903,000 people have received the first dose, while 233,000 have received the second dose. During this second wave, I was informed of the challenge faced by the COVID-19 treatment facilities due to inadequate medical oxygen. But before I go into the oxygen, I should inform the Ugandans that we are now talking of the second wave. Other countries are already in the 4th wave. So we are now talking of second wave because we were careful, we had succeeded. And we could have avoided the second wave completely. Yeah. You saw that graph where it was flat from December last year. Very, very few cases. So if people had listened, we would not have gone for the second wave. Other countries are now already in wave number 4. For us, because of the false prophets, in spite of all our efforts, we are now in wave 2. So please, let's work to avoid the 3rd wave now. On the issue of oxygen, the government is enhancing the existing oxygen production and supply at the national and regional referral hospitals in Uganda to cater for both the COVID-19 cases and other essential medical services. The procurement of gaseous oxygen plants, pressure swing adsorption is ongoing, and this will be installed in all the 15 regional referral hospitals and Bombo Military Hospital. In addition, a similar oxygen plant with a bigger capacity will be installed at Mulago Hospital. Furthermore, 3 Cryogenic liquid oxygen plants will be procured and installed strategically in 3 regions of the country to complement the gaseous oxygen production. The Minister of Finance has already provided funding for this. This will solve the current oxygen crisis. When I was discussing with our team, we were targeting oxygen capacity of 24,000 cylinders per day. Was it 24,000 or 18,000? So these machines, the 16 in the referral hospitals and the 3 cryogenic, the one cryogenic is the one of liquid oxygen, which will be in 3 sites, each one producing what? 5,000? Each one. So that issue of oxygen will be solved. On the 18th of June 2021, when I instituted the lockdown, I directed the Prime Minister and the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development to define and identify persons who depend on daily income in cities and municipalities who were affected by the lockdown, assess their needs during the lockdown period, and suggest interventions to take care of their needs. From our experience with food distribution in the lockdown of 2020, Cabinet decided that each of the selected 500,000 vulnerable persons in Kampala, the 10 cities, and 31 municipalities should be given Uganda shillings 100,000 so that they can buy food of their choice. The category of people identified included the following: bus, taxi drivers and conductors, because these buses were not working, and the taxis. Baggage carriers, wheelbarrow pushers, touts, traffic guides, and loaders in taxi, bus parks, and stages, and other major commercial centers such as Chikubo. Barmen, DJs, I don't know who DJs are, waiters, barmaids, bouncers, bar, gym, and restaurant workers, food vendors in bus, taxi parks, and arcades, artists, musicians, and comedians, border riders, special hire drivers, and Uber drivers, saloons, massage parlor workers, teachers and support staff in private schools and teachers in government schools not on the government payroll, car washers, slum dwellers, ghetto residents, street and food vendors, shoe shiners, and cobblers. The beneficiaries were selected from administrative records held by the urban authorities and town clerks. That's why you should register yourself. Because when we were looking for people to give support, we said, but people, if you say you have been doing business, that business is registered. And when it is registered, all the people who work in that company are known, or they can be got from the company. So there's no question of saying, I am working but I'm not registered. Why are you not registered? Why is your company not registered? Why is your business not registered? So you can see now the advantage. If you are registered, you'd have no problem. The beneficiaries were selected from administrative records held by the urban authorities and town clerks. I've been informed that as of Friday, 30th July 2021, 500,945 beneficiaries out of the target of 500,001 had been uploaded on the online registration system. Uploaded means what? That they were they were identified and recorded. Oh, okay. So these ones had been identified and confirmed. Then a total of 462,000, 92.3% beneficiaries had been verified and paid by Post Bank as of today. This totaled Uganda shillings 47 billion. The balance of 38,000 persons has been deferred for various reasons which are still under review by the town clerks before resubmission for payment. I'm told that the online system which we have used to register beneficiaries and submit their details to Post Bank for payment was designed by the Bazukuru, who are information technology experts at the National Information Technology Authority, NITAU, and the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. I have further been informed that if private consultants had been procured, the development of this system would have cost the government at least Uganda shillings 500 million. I therefore would like to thank this Bazukuru for being patriotic and saving public funds. Local therapeutics, local edagala, eryokuwonya. Kubanga biri bitwogeddeko byakugema okutangira oyo kaweefube gyali tumuteddemu amaanyi naye ate waliwo n'okuwonya. Our own scientists are working around the clock to find solutions to the attack of the coronavirus. They are at different levels of development of treatment remedies using all natural products. I'm aware that several Ugandan teams have now discovered natural extracts that could have therapeutic benefits against corona-19. I'm thus working with many Ugandan scientists to ensure we follow the international standards and guidelines to avoid being labeled inferior and thereby sabotaged by international players. The molecules referred to here act in a similar manner like all the drugs that have been recommended by the WHO organization. For example, the one by Dr. Nambatia and other people. Nambatia was not alone. Nambatia was working with other people. Katenta Pudi. There is a Mtoro boy, I've forgotten his name. This one is known as UBV10N. Has molecules that stop body from excessive reaction and self-destruction. The one by Professor Patrick Ogwang of Mbara University called Covidex, and Dr. Alice Lamwaka from Guru University, Covilis 1, have direct effects on the virus, as well as dampening self-destruction effects of the virus, the panic crisis. Therefore, a few Ugandans and other international skeptics shouldn't undermine our homegrown scientific efforts by telling lies about our efforts. Also, the scientists involved must follow the globally prescribed steps so that we don't give our enemies the chance to shoot down our products. Last and more importantly, we must protect the intellectual property rights of the scientists involved. I have heard of arguments around ownership of the patents and trademarks, but this is a straightforward issue. These belong to the scientists who discovered them. If the institution that employed these scientists want to benefit from their innovation, they should levy a sort of tax that the technology transfer experts refer to as sharing of royalties. Even then, much of the proceeds should go to the inventor so that we encourage our scientists to discover more. The Ministers of Health and Local Government, the Ministries of Health and Local Government developed a community engagement strategy, community surveillance, and home-based care guidelines and disseminated these to all districts and reoriented all the district local governments. During the lockdown, I'm informed that the following were undertaken. The district task forces were oriented to coordinate and supervise home-based care. The VHTs, community health workers, were trained on community-based disease surveillance and home-based care. The district task forces assigned one district home-based care coordinator and one village health team member to provide feedback and updates on the community engagement interventions through the established structures from parish level to the district. A mechanism for collecting information on the positive cases under home care from the communities through the health facilities was established and is functional. Because you see, this disease is really not a serious disease if people are serious. You have heard that we have had 81,000 recoveries. And really, although I was watching on the TV before I came here, that this Delta something variant is more effective than the other one. But otherwise, 2 meters, that was all that where the virus could infect you. So when we mobilize the people at the village level to be active and identify anybody sick and inform the health authorities nearest, and then the people are handled, we can defeat this disease as we had defeated it by January, February, March, April. So these structures in the local government are for that purpose, the use of the LC system. A mechanism for collecting information on positive cases under home-based care from the communities through the health facilities was established and is functional, as I said. Funding has been provided to the local governments to facilitate this procedure. I now direct the Minister of Local Government to strengthen the community engagement strategy as a means of mitigating the effects of the pandemic at community level. Government response is guided by two costed plans. COVID-19 response plan, the one of March 2020 to June 2021, and the resurgence plan, July 2021 to June 2022. This has guided budgetary allocation for public sensitization, provision of free care and treatment, all government treatment facilities, ambulance services in all regions of Uganda, enhancement of bed capacity, set up non-traditional treatment facilities, Nambole, e.g. Nambole, procurement of vaccines and oxygen plants, relief support for the most vulnerable population, and support to community interventions in local governments. You will recall that when I instituted the 42 days lockdown, I said that I will review the restrictions if the situation improves, as indicated above. Following the 42-day lockdown, the National Task Force considered the following parameters to revisit the restrictions. The current level of COVID-19 transmissions, as shown by the drop in cases, positivity rate, and hospital admissions. That's one of the factors that we considered. Adherence to the SOPs by the population. Economic considerations for the country and the wananchi. Current coverage of vaccination. Prolonged effects of the pandemic, 17 months on the wananchi. In addition to the above, the National Planning Authority has made projections on the potential effects of the different interventions and the likely outcomes. The model analyzes a number of factors including COVID-19 cases, Human Development Index, geographical factors, population density, age, structure, and weather, among others, to give projections of the COVID-19 new cases trends. They looked at three options to analyze how the current cases that average 300 per day might increase or decrease on either. Full opening up would give us, with no lockdown. That was one option we considered. We open everything. Number two, no opening up, full lockdown. Number three, partial opening up. The result of their modeling is as below. Modeling is okutebereza oko to make some assumptions using some facts which you know, and then you project. You say, since things are like this, if they continue, they are likely to end up like that. Fully opening up, according to them, if we fully opened up, within 28 days, new cases will average about 500 per day, with a weekly average of around 2,000. This measure will take the country directly into the third wave, according to their analysis. No opening up continue with the full lockdown. With this option, the country would have 30 new daily infections and a weekly average of 246 new cases in the coming 28 days. So this would cut down the infections. This measure has strong and positive health benefits as the cases will reduce drastically, but it has got negative economic consequences that will impact the economic and social well-being of the people. Then we'll go to partial opening up, okugulako ebintu ebimu. This model projects an increased number of cases in the first week to an average of 309 new cases per day, and eventually coming down to 85 new cases by the third week. The initial increase of the cases is due to the increased movement of people in the opening week. Everyone will be coming out after the 42 days of closure, and this may spike the infection rate. Cases are projected to further reduce to about 66 new cases per day by 28 days after partially easing the lockdown, based on this model. It is therefore important to ensure that there is still observance of SOPs within the partial lockdown period so as to curb the spread of the virus. The graph there is showing what I have already told you, what each model will produce, that graph. Based on the scientists' advice and NPA projections, I now revise my directives as follows. Number one, curfew time is maintained at 7 p.m. sawa muyekiro up to 5:30 sawa 11 ekitundu kumacha. All persons except the security personnel on duty and those are authorized to move should be in their homes. This is intended to avoid breaching of guidelines, SOPs, and thuggery under the cover of darkness. So the curfew we maintain. Why do we maintain the curfew? Because without curfew, there will be too much socialization in the night, and that's where the disaster will be. But with the curfew, people stay in their homes. They may drink. I hear some people call it sanitizing themselves. They may sanitize themselves, but do it in their homes. That's bad, but not as bad as sanitizing when you are gathered together. So that's number one, curfew stays. Number two, borders are now allowed to move up to 1800 hours, that is 6 o'clock. Beyond 1800 hours, no border should be on the road. They are now allowed to carry one passenger at a time, or cargo. Or border, or kiriziwa, okusabaza omuntu omu yekka. They should strictly maintain SOPs. Wearing a mask is a must for both the rider and the passenger. But please, don't share masks. Everybody will come with his own mask. They should strictly maintain SOPs. Wearing a mask is a must for both the rider and the passenger, as I already said. The border associations are directed to regulate themselves. Failure to comply, this directive would be reversed to the earlier position. Chikubo should open under the following conditions. All kiosks within the corridors of buildings should be removed for purposes of decongesting pathways. Roadside vending within Chikubo is banned. These will be relocated to alternative venues where vending is permitted by the KCCA. Chikubo should remain a wholesale trading center. The ministers for Kampala, RCC, KCCA, and enforcement agencies to ensure compliance of these measures. Manufacturers, wholesalers, and traders should open outlets in the various towns and business centers in the outskirts of the central business district. Traders should adapt to e-commerce. Malls, arcades, and other business centers have been closed. These can open and must strictly follow these guidelines. Compliance to all SOPs, presence of compliance officers is a must. Corridors and access ways have to be clear, adequate lighting and ventilation, dedicated entry and exit, install CCTV cameras where if they are not already there, proper hygiene and sanitation facilities, registration of shop owners and attendants is a must. Only those arcades that conform to the above guidelines would be allowed to open. In addition, failure to conform to any of the above will lead to closure. On the issue of barriers, this should not, people who go for barriers should not exceed 20. This should be maintained. This was the previous guideline. Maintain it until the population is sufficiently vaccinated. On the issue of weddings, which were also regulated to 20 people, that should be maintained until the population is sufficiently vaccinated. So continue with smaller weddings. Places of worship. This should remain closed and will be reviewed after another 60 days. Alternative means of worship, i.e. online radio and TVs, are instead encouraged. A maximum of 10 leaders are allowed to lead the virtual prayers. The Minister of Health will have to explain this, the 10 of all the religions or what. She will explain it. Previously, outdoor sports events were allowed with restrictions. The international and the local accredited sports events are allowed under strict observance of SOPs. No spectators, mandatory testing of players and officials within 72 hours of the event. This is reporting, I think. Outdoor individual sports activities are allowed. If you are playing alone outside or jogging, it's allowed, especially if you have your mask on. Indoor sports activities, including gym, pool tables, those should remain closed. The pool tables and so on. Gaming and betting remain closed. Casinos, theaters, and cinemas, including Bivanda, remain closed. Performing artists, concerts, and comedians are advised to perform virtually. These measures shall be reviewed after 42 days. Bars remain closed, and enforcement agencies are directed to arrest and charge both revelers and the owners who breach this directive. Restaurants previously were allowed to operate under strict observances of SOPs. These should remain open under strict observance of SOPs. These are restaurants for food, not bars. Saloons were allowed to operate under strict observance of SOPs. I agree this should be opened under strict observance of the SOPs and guidelines. Saunas and steam baths, those are super spreaders. When you go there and all the corona comes out, so this should remain closed. Saunas, if you want sauna, do it in your own shower. Just go there, put hot water. That's what sauna is. But to go into shared sauna is really madness. Schools will remain closed until sufficient vaccination of the eligible population and children aged 12 to 18 years old has taken place. The Minister of Education and Sports and National Council for Higher Education and the Minister of Health should meet and plan for the possibility of a safe reopening of medical schools. Because medical schools, we are looking at them as also health workers, because they work in hospitals. So we are thinking of giving them a special arrangement. Learning should continue virtually. Minister of Education and Sports will provide learning materials to learners. Reduction to 10% of non-core staff in the ministries, departments, and MDAs and other formal sector may now, because previously we had said only 10% office workers should be the one to report. We are now saying make them 20. Make them 20. MDAs and other formal sectors must have compliance officers to enforce SOPs. Private vehicles are now allowed to move across district borders, carrying a maximum of 3 persons, including the driver. Registered tourist vehicles should continue to move to their destination and designated places. Enforcement agencies and the task forces at all levels to ensure compliance. Minister of Health should on a bi-weekly basis flag the high-risk districts for restrictive control actions. Movement in and out of the country through Entebbe International Airport will remain open. Minister of Health, Immigration Services, Port Health and other agencies of government to ensure compliance to the existing guidelines, such as testing, isolation, etc. UPDF medical services are directed to oversee the management of the COVID-19 screening process at the Entebbe International Airport, leading to secure entry and exit. Online visa management systems be maintained. Cargo trucks are still allowed to move in and out of the country with a maximum of 2 people, driver and turnman. Drivers should possess a negative COVID-19 test result and be allowed to move. Public transport will open at strictly 50% capacity, effective Monday, 2nd August 2021. So you can travel in the taxi or the bus, but it must be 50% full. So that you are traveling, but you are not squeezed. This will be reviewed after 2 weeks. Taxi and bus owners associations must ensure adherence to this directive by their members as part of self-regulation by the appropriate associations. There must be no air conditioning in all public transport. Don't use air conditioning. See, I don't have air conditioning here. Because air conditioning is a super spreader. So when you are traveling in a bus or a taxi, don't agree when there is air conditioning. The public transport associations are directed to regulate themselves. Failure to comply with this, the directive will be reversed to the earlier position. Food markets, the food markets should remain open, but maintain strict observances of SOPs. Food markets were never closed, even previously. Seasonal markets, Ebikomera, like the ones of my group, the one of Ntungamo, Rubare, Kagarama, Chitwe, those ones, and also the food markets of Tari. Where people just come and sell and go. These should remain closed because they are super spreaders. People come from where you don't know, they gather together, then they go back. It's very dangerous. How can you control that? You don't even know how it all started. So that's why they should remain closed for now. Conferences, workshops, and seminars were banned. These remain banned except with the express permission from the Ministry of Health and related MDAs. Numbers will be restricted and testing will be carried out. The Joint Intelligence Committee are directed to continue coordinating, monitoring, and enforcing compliance of these directives. TISSC or intersectoral committee to create regional and district operations rooms to oversee the enforcement of the SOPs. The Minister of Finance, working with the Bank of Uganda, will mobilize low-cost credit for microfinance, small and medium enterprises. Government will, as a first step, immediately raise Uganda shillings 100 billion through further budget rationalization and participating financial institutions will equally contribute Uganda shillings 100 billion. This brings total resources available for the medium, small scale industries to Uganda shillings 200 billion. The Minister of Finance will prepare and announce details and guidelines to this support within 2 weeks from today. I would like to appreciate the following companies who have recently supported the COVID-19 response, on top of those who I had already recognized during the first wave of the pandemic. Nairo Breweries Limited, 300 oxygen cylinders worth 330 million. Abusa Bank donated 160 oxygen cylinders and accessories. Ham Enterprises, he contributed vaccines of 530 million shillings. Bidco, $100,000. Manufacturers who are supporting our hospitals with medical oxygen, namely BM Steel Mbarara, Kesiments Africa, Oxygas, Mayuga Steel, NEC, UPDF, Roofings Limited, Steel and Tubes Industries, Tembo Steel Uganda Limited, Uganda Oxygen Limited, and Pramuka Steel Limited. So, in conclusion, countrymen and countrywomen, we may say that unless, of course, the virus now they say is changing, that it is becoming, I was watching TV, that it may be as infectious as the common cold or as influenza, as influenza, which is the same as common cold, I think. No, also as chicken pox. Chicken pox is amatojo. What is chicken pox? Chicken pox is what we call amatojo. So they are saying now that the virus, this delta something, may be as infectious as amatojo, chicken pox, or like the common cold. So I don't know what that means. It is more infectious than before. It means it is more infectious. Faster. But otherwise, if it changes, then we may have another problem. Because, for instance, if it can hang in the air for some time, and you come and breathe it. But previously, it was easy to stop because it could go to only 2 meters. And unless you touch yourself in your eyes or your nose or your mouth with an unwashed hand. So it was possible to avoid it. But people, I don't know what they were thinking. Not listening is the one that has caused all these unnecessary problems. Nevertheless, Uganda is not as bad off as some of the other countries, because in some of the countries like the US, they lost 600,000 people. 600,000 people is like all the people in Arua district dying. Arua district is one of the big districts. Ontungamo district. Here, people have died 2009, the figure I read here, but not as bad as in other countries. Now we are partially opening up, as I have read. Public vehicles, transport will resume, but go with only 50%. ekitega, ekitundu. Now, if you don't observe that and you think you are clever, you may get problems. And of course you cause us social problems. If these measures are taken, we can avoid a third wave. And we shall have got time to get vaccination and maybe even the cures, which we are trying. I thank you and I wish you good luck.
naye gwe
ababbi enyumba eyidde
mwenyumba eyidde nkuteekerateekera bulungi emmere yange kyokka ekinnuma n'olya katono bwe kati nodda mu kubongoota
simanyi kyennaba
kozesa ku byokunywa bya entale owona okubongoota
entale
bw'onywa entale namba emu ayoza obutwa mu mubiri n'okuwa appetite ate bw'onywa entale namba 2 ofuna amaanyi mu mubiri n'onyirira n'odda buto ate kufa abakyala lino ssanyu lyaffe ebyokunywa bya entale bisogoddwa bulungi nywa entale obeere w'amaanyi.
Oine bizinensi yawe oine ebyokutunda lundi oine ebyokukola kyona ekwakwetagire abantu bamanye Bunyoro TV turoho leta bizinensi yawe ogitere abantu mu maiso ija orange naitwa muhendo ogokengangana tuli ha chombeko kya Liberty Broadcasting Services harugudo olukujja Fort Potro opposite Centenary Bank Waima omukampala tuli kamo Chachira Road oba tuikira simu zaitu zinu 0774 985 583 00 0772 kaga na munana chenda na munana 0 mukaga oba 0773 kinana naina nkaga nemu ana na mwenda oba twikire ha email yaitu nokwesa Bunyoro television sales@gmail.com.
Liberty Institute of Business and Media Studies.
Success, nothing else.
It has been proven beyond doubt. Kuraba Liberty Institute okuboli mu line ya success. Bakakibaza kandi bakikora. Akaire niko kanuko kutarabwa homugisa go kusoma amasomo gano. Business Studies, Purchasing and Supplies Management, Marketing, Accountants and Finance, Business Administration and Management, Journalism and Media Studies, Cosmetology and Hairdressing, Secretarial Studies and Information Management, Hotel Institutional Catering, Record and Information Management, Project Planning and Management, Public Administration and Management, Social Work and Social Administration, Human Resource Management, Entrepreneurship and Business Management, Information Technology, Tailoring, Knitting, Hairdressing, tuwara no mugisa gune gokusoma short courses inka Computer Repair and Maintenance, Filming and Editing, Computer Package, kandoba masomo ganu gona hokugezesa haruhu. Somera ha Liberty Institute, oturukane ebipapuro ebihimbire kilo za future yawe yona. Bakora ebizamu bya UBTEB na DIT. Kandi bayina UBTEB Center. Ebizamu ne babikora asomera honyine busaho kuzunga. Haba diploma egumire hamwe na certificate. Kurabo mbasomesa abamani n'ebikwate byetagisa. Kukufore kyotabayire. Library, computer laboratory, production studio, photo studio, a demonstration hotel, standby generator, amaize masanyalaze. Niendya nungi muno haba ba boarding. Liberty Institute of Business and Media Studies. Nesangwa Muhona Municipality. Enyuma yekikari ky'omuka Harukurato Road nokyahingura offices za human rights. Ebikiraho teresimu 0774 mwenda 55 300. Rundi 0772 nkaga na munana kenda na munana 0 mukaga.
Yo, what's up, my people?
Anya Fresh Kid Uganda.
Hanson Baliono. It's a boy gift of God. Robert Prince.
Zexi Belangelanje.
Berako Kahoho Request.
Kahoho Request.
Kahoho Request.
Kahoho Request.
Kahoho Request.
Tonji Wanga yo. Yo, my friend.
Topo wa buladi sigala ngo pambanya.
Planet Aroni. Kana kaimba boyonji wa madirisa.
On BTV. Don't miss the show. Why not?
Tovako. This is Fresh Kid Uganda.
Na babunyoro abana batoro abana nimba gonza. Kaboom. This one goes to the one.
Money is my chocolate.
Tawala kwa mula Bunyoro TV, a program by Jetta Slave Patrol Macron and MC Timothy Bags Roni wagwan.
Wagoso.
Ni easy. Bulichamkaga samna na paka saa mwenda kuchweka Timothy Bags. My name is Singus Timothy, aka MC Timothy Bags, Mr. Yeye and Macron of course.
Ronnie, your boy, a son of a peasant. Tasha Manana, kuisa mwenda nechweka Slave Patrol. Tuwaletera muziki, tuwaletera ubeshongoro busia, tuwaletera amahuraga birumba Slave bawe. Ubuserebo kumanya just
wena
Noteka Bunyoro TV Slave Patrol buri rwa mukaga ntukaburi kimwe.
Okay, yes, yabo telefone ate ku Bunyoro television ngabuli jyo munangu mulabi wafu mulungi nkutegeza tukwetedde shop eyo mulembe eno ye shop jota sana kusubwa obadde ngo obulabo bwenjabulo bwonna naye ku muludi guno nkutegeza nti waliwo ekyenjabulo waliwo abafumbo wetozanya ekyakuleeta okimanyi oteekeddwa okulabika nti twetaaga family kuwera wali obadde kaawo naye ng'obunkenke buli mu family gy'olowooza nti yandibadde ntebenkevu kakati shop yino mysterious personal shopper eno tosaana kugisubwa ku Bunyoro television wokka Monday mpaka Friday sawa 2 ezekiro buli lunaku tuyina tuba tugenda maaso n'okubeera nga ate tugikutuusaako wabula nga tuba ne kalipiiti nateera nako tokeerabira bw'oba okasubiddwa tegeera nti olina okalaba mu budde bwa lipiiti obunkenke bujjudde mu eno bwotasaana kusubwa ebintu bwe bitabuka abadde muka mwana ayinza ofuuka ekirala byonna birinde mu mysterious personal shopper wano ku Bunyoro television wokka.
Omulozi wetu mulungi okubano kiyaye Bunyoro TV the pride of Banyakitara akayi kano obwire buli basireho bakitu kwongera kutaba kiyayo omubazo omubembezo w'ihanga akandi abayiroho umandi kabiri ombike bike bikujja kuba nikutemeramu president Orubazo Rwe asoboye kubona yerobyamu omukugiro hali atabuzire no kutunura andubata ni tuzete public means alaga mireti zinakuwa nisitwara ekichweka ekyabantu kandi okutunura hali abavugi ababoda boda bo bayina okutwara omuntu omu kandi nibakondera ebiragiro ebyo ebyateyiweho abikwataganye n'amulamizo agambye nti bakyagye ekyumiikirizaho habwa akasumi akebiro omukaaga mu busumi obw'omaiso kandi amasomero bakyagenze mu maiso n'okukingwa okuyika amalira okugema abannayuganda bobo nibalindira omubazi ogundi okuba kujja kuba nibatunga okuruga aheru. President akumsenti nkehanga bakugenda maiso n'okuteekamu amaanyi omukurura nti bayekora omubazi ogwabo hali ateebeirwe okuba n'abazaho Professor Ogwang Patrick ogwo anya kuturukiza omubazi okumanya kuba Codex kandi akiyagenda maiso n'okuyiiya okuba nagongeramu ebirongo. President Orubazo Rwe akugamba nti ngo COVID19 sobole kuba ntugirwanisa kandi singa atayisulira kimulundi gumu nitusobora kuba tugarukayo omubiri yakubi baitu kandi yasobola kuba nayerobyamu abavugi abamotoka private tuzete motoka za kiremera zikwekirizibwa okurubata nizikiwanganiza baitu kandi bakugamba zina kuba nisitwara abantu abakukira kimu basatu bonka ebyo tukuba tukuteera harubaji public means zikugenda kuba nizigarukamu okurubata okutandika nekiro ekyakyabalaza kandi buli motoka ina kuba netuwara ekichweka ekya obwingi obw'abantu ina kutuwara katugambe bulabe taxi etwara abantu 14 kipumaisa ina kuba netuwara abantu 7 bonka ebyo nibyo bike nsobere kuba nikutematemeramu baitu nkongera kujikiza nti akaire katukwasirikiriza atusobole kuba tukuyikiyaho amakulu agatusangire tukuteekanirize then akaire omaiso tukujja kuba tukuyikiyaho enteekaniza enyakumanyibwa nka zina padde na tiimu ye katutandikire mu lubuga olukulu olwa Kampala n'ensonga ekwatagana akutuukibwa okwa ebihabuzo ebya abaana abanyakumaze esiniya eyakana. Kiro kino ministry ekola ebyenyigisa ahamu n'ebyemuzaano etuukiza ebinyakulugiro mu bihabuzo ebyakozerwe abaana abakumala esiniya eyakana omwaka ogunyakuhoyire okusigikira hali Minister Janet Kataya Museveni agumuse nti abaana bakozere okulungi baitu kandi abaana abaisiki bakozere muno okulabibwa kubi muno amasomo nka isomo eryokubala ahamu na amasomo aga sciences agumuse nti nka government bakugenda okulwana lucheka ihembe okulwana nti basobola kuba nibongeramu esente ezikuyirukira obuhumbi buna n'obutonyeze 15 omusente eza Uganda niko basobola kuba nibongera okuyimukya ebyenyegesa n'okubiteeka hamutindo bino byona abibalize kiro kino oba bayire bali nakasero akandi bagenda maaso n'okutuukya ebyo binyakulugire omu bihabuzo bino John Baptist ahumuza aina ebikusinga
arabiroho emyezi 5 ku lugabeega by'esiniya eyakana baikale ebikaguzo byabyo ebikusembayo kiro kino ekitongole kya Uganda National Examinations Board UNEB kiturukiza ebikaguzo eby'omwaka 2020 omukolo guno gubaire omumaka g'obwa President Entebbe gwayetabwamu abakulu bayingo okuruga mu gavumenti alatabuzire Janet Kataya Museveni abaire omugenyi omukulu. na haye ebikaguzo bino hali Minister Executive Director owa UNEB Dan N. Odonga yolekeze nk'okwabaire okukendera okwabeega bayehandikisiza omwaka 2020 obw'okubolengesanize n'omwaka 2019.
Generally say that there was better performance overall compared with 2019 with 311,233 candidates passing compared to 306,924. Mama, this gives us an extra 4,309 candidates for whom we have to find places in the post-O-level institutions.
Abega bakwikira kime emitwalo 31,233 niba barabira ebikaguzo bino bw'okubolengesanize n'abeega emitwalo 36,924 abarabira ebikaguzo eby'omwaka 2019. Kino kikwolekya nk'okwo habaire okweyongera okwabeega barabira ebikaguzo eby'omwaka 2020.
This performance was better because at Division 1 14.3% of the candidates who were male passed, and then females had 9.9% at that division. Secondly, in Division 2, 22.9% of the males obtained Division 2, and then 19.4% obtained Division 2. Interestingly, Division 3, the numbers are more or less the same. They are exactly the same.
Alipote kwolekya omulinga beegi emitwalo 39,968 barabira mu iddaala ery'okubanza abeega emitwalo 69,908 mu iddaala eryakabiri kandi babeegi emitwalo 8,228 mu iddaala eryakasatu abeega emitwalo 12,505 barabira mu iddaala eryakana kandi abeega emitwalo 18 n'ebikumi 415 mu iddaala ery'omwenda. Okusigikira hali Dan N. Odongo abeega b'obwisiki bakozere kurunga isomo ery'olujungu kandi abooja okubala hamu n'agaga sayansi.
The females outperform the males in English language. However, in all the other subjects, the male performance is better. with the difference between males and females being more distinct in mathematics and the sciences.
Abega bakwikira kimu 1292 ne babakunirwa okuba bayemigira mu kuyiba ebikaguzo bino kandi bano bakugya okukolebwaho nk'okwo ebiragiro bikulagira.
There is a reduction in the cases of examination malpractice compared to last year and even the previous years. The subjects that have been affected most this year have been physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics. In accordance with Section 5, subsection 2B of the UNEB Act number 1 of 2021, 1,292 results will be withheld.
Uwe Minister w'ebyenyegesa Janet Kataha Museveni ayolekeza omulingo gavumenti eyina enteekaniza y'okukingula amasomero 95 agasiida mu buli ggombolola okwetooloola ihanga.
Once the lockdown measures have been eased, our ministry shall be ready to commission at least 95 brand new, fully government-owned and complete secondary schools to our communities. Each of these schools is already staffed with 31 teaching staff, including a head teacher.
Asobolere na mulingo gavumenti eyongeize sente kugenda okuba n'eteeka mu kwongeza omutindo gw'ebyenyegesa okulugira kimu buhumbi 4 n'obutoonyeza 2 okugaruka buhumbi 8 n'obutoonyeza 3.
The Directorate of Education Standards now has from 98.2%, which is Uganda shillings 4.077 billion, from Uganda shillings 4.15 billion, it has now gone to Uganda shillings 8.277 billion. It has doubled, as a matter of fact, and more over the last 5 years.
Oh no, hariho n'entandabo heira barabire bikaguzo bino.
The guardians and teachers, among others, who made it possible despite the difficulties brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. For those who were not as successful as you expected from your UCE, I encourage you not to lose hope. As long as you're healthy, God will make a way for you through which your life goals can be pursued.
John Baptist Awumuza, Bunyoro TV, agagumizibwe.
Abadaktari okulaba hansi ekitebe kyabo ekikubateranisa ekya Uganda Medical Association bargeba habura omubembezi wihanga owekitinisa Yoweri Museveni ansonga eza COVID-19 kandi bagamba nti singa atayisulira kimu hakwatagaine na omukugiro antusobora kuba ntugaruka okutunga obulwaire obwa COVID-19 type endi kandi obunyakuli harulengo obekika ekya iguru bano okubaza bino byona babayiri baiteteine abaseke baitaba amakoro mu rubuga rukuru rwa Kampala hayiwaro ejyamulago ali bongeye okusaba gavumenti okuranti yongera okuhandika abadaktari niko kibakonyere omukurwanisa hamwe no kwikiyaho obujanjabi abana Uganda abakyagenda maso no kwitwa endwari ya kalingo hali atawusirine kinskaita ekya COVID-19 katuziro okusigikira hali abadaktari bano okulaba hansi eyekitebe kyabo ekikubateranisa ekya Uganda Medical Association bakugamba nti President Yoweri Museveni singa abana yetaga okwihaho omukugiro aina okikora aina okwegendereza okwamani abokuba omusomi obomaiso nikisobora kuba nikiretereza mitali baine eri kusingaho
tulowooza ebintu ebibiri ekisoka kwongerayo omugalo oba okugujjako nga Uganda Medical Association tugamba nti omugalo guno gujibweko naye mu bwegendereza naddala bwe tubanga tusobola okugujjako mu phases oba tegujiddeko ddala naye nga tugujjako mu phases.
Dr. Rubega Robert akugwera omuhandiki owa Uganda Medical Association hano ayolekeise okukwatibwaho kwe nagamba singa government ebane yetaga okuyaho omukugiro guno hakiri kikwetagisa abantu abakwirukira omiliyoni 2.9 babe bamaziro okugemebwa ekinsi kino ekiya COVID-19.
About 1 million Ugandans have received at least 1 dose of COVID-19 vaccines. We do know that although accessing these vaccines has become very difficult for the next 6 months, the Ministry of Health will make getting vaccines and vaccinating the planned 21.9 million Ugandans their single most important job. This will be their focus day and night. If they are to do one thing, let it be finding these vaccines and vaccinating the 21.9 million.
Dr. Mukuzi Muhereza Katongole anyakuli omuhandiki wa Uganda Medical Association akugamba kikwetagisa government okuteekamu amaani omukugula za oxygen okwongeramu obuhereza mu intensive care unit niko basobole kuba nibalwanisa ekirwaire kino n'okuyikiyaho abarwaye obuhereza obulungi.
Twagala kubagamba nti bw'obanga weetaaga oxygen okugiteeka mu mawuggwego oba mashine ekusiza that can breathe for you. Mu Uganda yonna ng'ogyeko omulago eri Mbarara ne Mulago wokka mu malwaliro ga government.
We have more MPs than ICU beds.
And more ministers than ICU
more ministers than functional ICU bed in the national referral. Kenya had, by the time pandemic is coming, Kenya had about 537 ICU bed in government facility. Uganda had 55.
Hano noho ayolekeize omulingo haro obwetaago abo badakitali abandi nagira nti abanyakuli omarwaro tibakumara.
Tulaba nti ku bakozi 10 bebalanga government be yaranga atenga wano bali bagamba population ndowooza ya 9 tebadanga mu revisinga naye kati ogenda n'olaba nti ku bakozi 10 abakozi ab'ebyobulamu kuliyo 6 bokka kuliyo 6 anaje baliwo bogenda kwaba abakugwe nnyo ba consultants ne senior consultants kuliyo 25 75 tebaliwo. Tusabira ddala eggwanga ly'employing oba liteekeko abakozi kubanga tebabuze buli mwaka tufulumya consultants abatale wansi w'ebitaano.
Nobukira abantu bano nibasobora okuhebwa omulimo hanyuma eya government okuhura okusaba kwabo baitu akugamba government ekyokubaha akasente akarungi tibaina okiguru kya maiso.
Bana ba siamene esoroti sente zafuna mu Uganda ziri wansi z'omusawo agezesebwa mu Kenya. Naye twatuula naawe sebo mug'omukaaga nga gutandika era n'ogamba nti kino nawe n'okiraba era n'otugamba nti kino kijja kukoma era sente z'abasawo zijja kwongezebwayo.
Bano tibeberwe okwetomboita ha sente zakaruga kuba nizihebwa abakurasa mu rukwata rukororo ihanga okugura enjoga rugendo nibagamba nti zino zenyine government nize kubaire nekolesa omukugura omubazi okugema abana Uganda.
Tuwagira parliament okuweebwa ebikozesebwa naye twebuuza sente zino ez'emmoroka tezandirinzeeko ate ng'omwaka ogumu kubanga sente zino zebaawa okugula emmoroka zisobola okugula at least dose emu eya AstraZeneca ey'okugema abannayuganda obukadde 7.5 n'emitwalo 5.
Nobukira abantu eihanga tukyali omubuzibu obwa sente okuba zitakumara bano bakugamba singa government eyanguhiya okurabyaho ekiragiro ekya National Health Insurance Bill nikisobora kuba nikikonyiraho eihanga okutaikala liturukia esente nyamwingi zityo.
Addala sebo president oso omukono ku bago erya National Health Insurance eno ye insurance y'ebyobulamu era kijja kukyusa nnyo mu sente zigenda mu ggwanika ly'ebyobulamu era nabyo bikyuke.
Bibaire bya Roni Ngabirano Bunyoro TV agagumizibwe.
Webali muno omuseke waitu ow'amakulu kiro kino omusomo ogwa akasomi ak'ebiro 2 obunyakwemigirwemu abakurasa omukwatu lukuru ihanga abanyakole abajirukwa haliza government gusoboye kuba niguhwa kandi bano basobola kuba nibateererwa ekintu kikwatagaine na obugabe obw'abantu bakitwala nk'ekintu ekikulu muno kandi kibayebwa okuba nibakora okuseruriza niko kibakonyere okuhanura ebintu ebiri hamuramwa kandi biratwara ihanga omaiso katubiro
nakingaho omusomo guno ogunya kumazire akasomi ak'ebiro 2 Dr. Tumukwasibwe Robert anyakula omuseruliriza ha parliament ajukise abakurasi aba parliament eyo murundi ogwa 11 okitwara nk'ekikuru kandi kitabebaga bukyabukya okuteekamu ekitinisa obugabe obw'abantu.
Another area that Parliament must look at is the defense and the protection of human rights. Defense and protection of human rights. The Constitution under chapter on Bill of Rights makes Parliament a duty bearer when it comes to the defense and protection of fundamental human rights, but most importantly also to champion peace and reconciliation. It is the role of Parliament to champion peace and reconciliation in the country, but as well in the region.
Hano omukrasi nabagabe Silvia owa Kasanda district nakikira abakyara omurukwati rukuru orwihanga arugiye asobora kubona habuza abakrasi bagenzi be okwetaga okwetegereza waraba hariho omuntu wena ayasobora kubona azokeraho omukatego aka okukurakuraniza obuli obwenguzi.
And I really thank the Lord for organizing this with your office. Then I would also want to look at the committee leadership in terms of what Honorable Asalia was talking about, bringing to book the culprits of that are anti-corrupt, that are corrupt on these committees. It's interesting that we have legal officers that sit on these committees as staff. I didn't know that. I just come to learn of it. Thank you for sharing that with us. So what do these legal officers do on that committee?
Nagarukamu okuhabuza kwe Dr. Tumukwasibwe hano no hagumize nti omuntu wena nibasobora kumusiga akasa runi nasobora kuzokera omurukara nkorwo singa haba yiroho ekintu kiona ekikunyweseza omubuli obwengozi.
When committees become extensions of political contestation rather than arenas for gathering, analyzing and scrutinizing evidence, when committee leadership is compromised and bribed, when committee members dance the tune of the payer, I think maybe that's the biggest challenge we are going to face, or we have been facing. Every committee of Parliament is as important as each and every part of the human body.
Abakurasi bano basabire okururaga nti bukiya bakora okuseruliriza barabaga nibetaga okuhanura niko kibakonyere okuletaho empinda hinduka ombikwatagaine ebyo bwebembeze rundi omu government.
We also need to look at the behavior, the conduct of the key actors in those MDAs. My brother indeed talked about the importance of debating, topical issues through motions, through interpellations. Some people think this is the critical and most important function of Parliament. I think we have been taught that after all, etymologically, the word Parliament comes from the French word parler, which means to speak. And I'm happy that my MP knows how to speak, and that's why we voted him massively. This one I have to make it absolutely clear.
Akukura abakurasi abanyakuri harubajuru kwa kanisa government Mathias Mpoga agumizenti nka abakurasi abanyakuri harubajuru urukwa kanisa government omu parliament eyo murundi ogwe 11 bayino mulingo bakutunuramu ebintu omu mulingo ogwembaganisa kandi byona nibabikora abo burungi obuyihanga lyabo.
In again a second minute I'm borrowing this to assure Doctor and the other technical staff here that we are trying to do things differently, and for accountability committees, one of the gatekeeping mechanisms we are adopting is regular reporting to avoid deference of matters that are urgent matter, and we believe we shall deliver on these. And we have asked the leaders of the committees to evolve these matrices and have them shared as a way of ensuring that output comes to bear.
Abatura Bunyoro TV tukongera okusiima kurwa tukatandikirege ikiriza kairi kantu banza tumune mukake tusobole kuba tugaruka n'ebyo ebyemizano halata buzire na makuru agakuruga ahiri ihanga. Tukutangira omurundo gwa kandi omukiyoga kyete kikusembayo kandi akayikanukiriza atutandikira hasonga ey'ebyemizano. Omupaka ezokwiruka emita ezikwikira kimu omutwaro gumu hali omuyanga eri ya Japan omurubuga orwa Tokyo. Kino kino soboire kubanizibwaho kandi bakutolekia abana Uganda babiri abagezere omuhangerio nti bakwasire ekikaro kya kabiri hamu ne kya kasatu Barega Solomon okuruga omuhanga area Ethiopia niwe asoboye kuba nabanza abantu bano kandi nakwata ekikaro ekyo kubanza akandi yasobora kuba nasingura gold Cheptegei bakugenda maisi Cheptegei Joshua Barega Solomon okuruga omuhanga area Ethiopia niwe anyakwasira ekikaro ekyo kandi na yatwara gold hanyuma eyo kwiruka enziriga zino yasobora kuba nazirukira dakika 27 no dakika 27 ne sekendi 43 no tikitiki 22 Joshua Cheptegei we akwasire ekikaro ekyomurundo gwa kabiri kandi ali omuna Uganda anyakusoboye kuba nayirukira edakika 27 na dakika 43 no tikitiki nkaga na busatu onu asobere kuba naherezebwa silver kandi Jacobo Chiprimo we akwasire kya kusatu yasobora kuba natunga bronze kandi onu ayikire edakika 27 ne sekendi 43 no tikitiki nkaga na busatu bano abana-Uganda bakusinga obwingi olw'aba bali bakusibiye hari Cheptegei abaitu kandi kyasobora kuba nikisoboka nokukiraba nti akasanga acwireho rekodi ya mita ezikukira kimu 15 kandi babayi bagenda maiso na okumikiririzamu hanyuma eya embiro zino omusaki wetu wa makuru abalizoho na Joshua Cheptegei owabayi babayi basibireho olukoba abaitu kandi aina ebya tugambiroho no mulingo alengeroho okikora okukwata ekikaro ekyomurundi ogwa kabiri katubiro.
Well, I really prepared myself to my best understanding, and I believe that this Olympics is a very strange one without spectators, with a lot of protocols involved, and I believe that whatever the result, I will be really grateful, but I am really looking forward to the title. The pressure is really so big because now it's the only medal that I'm left with to win as an individual, and it's really something that I have to believe in myself and see what comes tomorrow night. What I make of the field is that the field is very strong, more than any other field that has ever happened in Olympic history, and I believe that everyone has prepared for these Olympic Games. So let's see how it goes tomorrow, and perhaps let's see how it goes tomorrow. I would just say that thank you so much for keeping us in prayer and your support. I really implore you again to continue the same spirit and keep praying for us that the best will come for the country.
In Luganda area Egypt ekoti omihangerio ekujunanizibwa ne musangi koto ekywerera abasajja bakukira kimu 24 abekitebe ekya Muslim Brotherhood kandi babakiwera ekifubiro ekyokwitibwa alundo okuba nibateekebwa akaraba bo bano bakubatula okuba bayikaire nibemigira omu bikorwa ebya obutemu kandi nibakolaganira hamu n'abakulu ab'ekitebe kino nokiraba nti ekitebe kino kikaba kihakayino omuhangeeryo bati kandi bakiwamu okuyukaniza ennimo yaabo nibakikora bo bonka omukwetaaga kwabo katubirole.
Omu bantu 24 abanyakuchwereirwe ogw'okufa halimu abantu 16 ababaire nibakoragana hamu n'ab'ekitebe ekya Muslim Brotherhood hali atabusire Muhammad Soiden omukuru waabo omwitwale erya Egypt. Bano bakemigira omukikorwa ekyokuteera ebomu ebasi eya polisi omu rubuga olwa Rashid omwitwale erya Beheira omu mwaka ogw'2015. Ekibomu kino kikahulika kandi kyayitiraho abapolisi abakwirukira omu basatu abandi abakwikira kimu 36 basigara batungire ebihota ebyamaani. kooti niyemu esalizemu okuyitibwa okw'abandi 8 ababaire nibajunanwa okuyita omupoliisi omukwezi okwe12 omwaka ogw'2014 emisango eno abamu ebayihirweho hanyuma eyokusangwa bafuireira abandi 8 bajunanibwa batali omukooti eno. Al Ahram takiranwire kurungi obukiraba nikisoboka abantu bano okujulira okulengaho okuhindura enchwa mweno kyo ekitongole ekya Shehab Organization for Human Rights kikugamba kino nikisobora okuba ekifubiro ekitaina okuba nikihindurwa habwokuba kiturukibwe ekoti enyakwikalira habwakacho kandi omubwangu bwangu ebifubiro ebyo kwitwa omwihanga erya Egypt bizire nibikanya nibalengaho okurwanisa ebikorwa ebyo butemu ebyo bikayi nibyeyongera bukeire bwizire no bukira abantu amahanga omukizinga ekya Europe bakalengaho okwakaniza ebifubiro bino baitu kandi omwebembezi owihangeno yasobora kubona hereza ensonga ezikwawukana habwaki nibabisibiraho rukoba. Ekitebe kya Egypt Muslim Brotherhood kikatandikibwaho omu mwaka ogw'1928 kandi kiri harubaju orukwakanisa gavumenti no bukira abantu bakalengaho okihakaniza omunkora yakyo baitu kandi kyayongera okusasana omahanga harulengo orwensi yona kandi bakugamba baikaini bakitunura hamwe no kuseruliriza bayesanga kikaini kyemigira omu bikorwa ebyo butemu.
Wallahi alazim zulm ya'dam li
Aikairi nashiro kuga tukatanikirege okwika akaire kano kenye tugujja kuba tuyinguzaho dakika 25 zizakala basaha ina ezekiro itekanisa ejja kubaniga kwa bageta zina amu na mugenzi wa tukadde na timu ye akandi bajja kubani bakutera omuziki osobole kuba nonyimirwa na muno omukaire kano hali basobole kuba niborobeza omukugiro banyire kimwe kintu kikujja kuba nikikunyumira habokuba okuba oyino kunira kano manyire ntingo ujja kuba notandika okulibatamu nokurura nti woyeta yaya muka omulayiga